Does Colossians 2:16 say that we shouldn't keep the Sabbath and shouldn't observe dietary laws? And related to that is Romans 14 verse 14. The question being, do these verses mean that somebody can eat anything?
Let's go to Colossians chapter 2 verse 16, a very, very common verse used by people who try to show the Sabbath need not be kept. But that's not what the Bible is saying. Let us go Colossians chapter 2 verse 16, and the person says, does that mean we don't have to keep the Sabbath? Let their mind therefore judge you in...
Let no one judge you in food or in drink or regarding a festival or a new moon or Sabbaths.
All right. The Bible doesn't say, the verse doesn't say don't keep it. It said don't let anyone judge you. That is not a statement prohibiting the observance of the Sabbath. But read verse 17 now.
Which are a shadow of things to come.
The word shadow connects all of that to the sanctuary system. The entire sanctuary system was a shadow of things to come. And so we read in 1 Corinthians 5 verse 7, Christ our Passover is crucified for us. The Passover sacrifice was a shadow of something to come, and the fulfillment was Calvary when the ultimate Passover was sacrificed. All the sacrificial activities and sacrifices and rituals, they were a shadow. The entire sanctuary itself was a shadow of the original in heaven. Now, a shadow of things to come. The Sabbath is not a shadow of things to come. The Sabbath is a memorial of something past, which is creation, not a shadow of something to come. Now go to 1 Corinthians 7, read verse 19. Let me show you what the same Paul says. Because it's Paul in Colossians 2:16 who says, let no man judge you in observance of a holy day. Listen to what the same Paul says in 1 Corinthians 7:19.
7:19, he says, circumcision is nothing, and uncircumcision is nothing, but keeping the commandments of God,
and that includes the seventh-day Sabbath,
is what matters.
So the same Paul says what really matters is not being circumcised. Now, when Paul said that, keep in mind to whom he's writing. The Jews were so fixed on circumcision, the word was used to refer to them. They were called the circumcision because it was such a central part of their lives. And to have Paul say circumcision is nothing is to have Paul say your culture is nothing. You know, it's like telling the Maasai in East Africa, cows are nothing. You know, you can't do that. But Paul says circumcision is nothing. Uncircumcision is nothing. What really counts is keeping the commandments. He didn't say keeping 9. He said keeping the commandments. So that Paul in 1 Corinthians 7:19 cannot reverse his words in Colossians 2:16. Colossians 2:16 does not forbid the keeping of the Sabbath. It says don't let persons judge you. But keep in mind, there are several ceremonial Sabbaths in the Bible. They're all listed in Leviticus 23, and they all are attached to the 7 annual feasts. We have Passover number 1, Feast of Unleavened Bread, Feast of First Fruit, Feast of Weeks, Day of Trumpet, Day of Atonement, Feast of Tabernacles, in that order. Spring festivals, fall festivals, they all teach us about salvation from the time you accept Christ to when you enter the kingdom. Colossians 2:16 does not forbid the observance of the Sabbath day because Paul tells us clearly what really counts with God is to live according to his commandments.
Okay, and
Romans 14:14. Okay, let's go to that.
Romans 14:14.
Listen to the same Paul.
Paul writes to say, I know that I'm convicted, I'm convinced by the Lord Jesus that there is nothing unclean in itself.
Right, pause. There's nothing unclean in itself about a pig because God made pigs. There's nothing unclean in itself about a dog. God made dogs. There's nothing unclean in itself about a lion. God made but when it comes to diet, those animals are not fit for food in that sense. They're unclean. Are you with me? But God never deliberately makes an unclean thing. Because the Bible tells us in Genesis 1:31, and God saw everything that he had made, including pigs, lions, snakes, and he saw that it was very good. So we must reason with respect to diet. Don't eat a snake. With respect to diet, don't eat a slug, you see. But God made these things to fulfill their functions in nature. But when you take them out of their function and have them function as a dietary item, that's where you get into trouble. They were not made to be, actually, none of the animals were made to be eaten. Let me be frank. Before sin, none. After sin, God restricts us. Now you may eat these, but not those. And we have unclean animals going all the way back to Genesis chapter 7, when the animals went into the ark. Genesis chapter 7, verse 2 and 3, clean and clean, clean and clean, way back before there were any Israelites. And so any animal is not good for food. Some people think that's what the verse is saying. No animal is unclean in and of itself. It is the use to which we put that animal that introduces uncleanness. And when used for food, even though it's banned by God, that's where uncleanness becomes a reality.
All right.